Fellow problem solvers, Colfax Math. Here today I was going to go over key ideas with the TI-84 Plus CE or any graphing calculator. These things are an amazing tool and really give you an unfair advantage on a lot of standardized exams. You could use this calculator on both the SAT and your IB exam, and if you don't know how to use it properly, you are at an unfair advantage. So make sure you understand some key ideas. I have 5 key points here. These are areas where I see students make the most mistakes. They're just some really big ideas you might want to review before any sort of class that uses a graphing calculator or any sort of standardized exam that allows you to use a graphing calculator. So the first thing on here is it really has an amazing amount of capacity. It could solve equations, it could graph for you, it could do trig, it could do calculus. There's really kind of an unlimited number of resources. The key is you got to know what they are before you start. So here's the on button right here. If it's not very bright, you could turn up the brightness right here. Second arrow up, second arrow down. These things are rechargeable. All right, my first big idea is order of operations. I usually use PEMDAS to remember what they are. Parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication, then division, distance subtraction from left to right. So if you enter in 8 plus 4 times 3, it's not going to go 8 plus 4, 12, times 3, 36. It's going to do order of operations first. 4 times 3, it's going to do that multiplication before it does the addition. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20, and you could see it there. So make sure you're entering your order of operations correctly. The second thing after that is degrees versus radian mode. If you have any units on the back like this that say degrees, you have to be in degree mode. So the way you get to that is you go to mode. You can see it right here. Radian degree. I am currently in radian mode. So I scroll down to degree mode, hit enter. I quit. Now I go sine of 30 degrees, and there's my answer, 0.5. If I had something like sine of pi or sine of 3 with no units behind it, radians are unitless, so it's implied it's radians. So now I have to be in radian mode, so I go back to mode, scroll down to radian, enter, second quit, and now I'm going to go sine of pi. I want to make sure I use the pi key. It's right here in blue, so it's the second function, second sine of pi, and I get 0. Okay, because the opposite side is 0 with hypotenuse of 1. Next is the graphing capacity or capabilities. You got to understand what domain and range are, how big your window is. So let's go over here to graph. If I have any sort of graph like y equals 2x plus 9, I could clear this other graph there. Now I want to graph it, I just go over to graph. I can see it's a pretty good window right there. And it's a pretty good window because I set my window parameters here first. I set my x minimum value is -10 to a +10. Every little tick mark on that graph, the scale is 1. Y min is -5 to 10 with a y scale of 1. So if I couldn't really see my graph very well, I could reset my window. Another way to do that is to zoom in and out under the zoom button. If you want to zoom out and see more of your graph, you could zoom out that way. So now you could see you're kind of looking at domain and ranges through those zoom windows. Next really common problems are statistical problems. The way you could enter stats in here is here's the stat key, stat. You got 3 options. You could edit your data, you could run calculations on that data, or you could run tests on that data. So let's say we're going to edit our data first. I'm going to hit enter. I go to the top of the list, hit clear, enter. It's going to clear that whole column. Over to L1, clear, enter, and then I could enter that data. I'll just make something up. All right, so I got my first set of data. If I don't have corresponding points here, it's going to say dimensions don't line up. So let's go 3, 8, 9, and 10. Now there are 2 different kinds of data. One is a single variable statistical data, where this is your value and this is your frequency, how often they occur. So if you got a frequency distribution like this, you're going to run one variable stat. So what I'm saying is there are 3 values of 2, 8 values of 6. So you want to figure out the average of them or the standard deviation. I'm going to hit that stat button again. I'm going to go over to calc. I am running one variable statistics. It is saying my list is in L1. That's correct. My frequency list is L2. So L2 is right here in blue. So I'm saying it's a frequency distribution with L2. Scroll down and calculate. And then there it is. There's my average value. I have a total of 30 values. The sum of x's, the standard deviation, all my one variable stats are right there. Let's say, on the other hand, let's go back to edit here. On the other hand, I got 2 variable statistics. Like I want to see how this variable affects this. Y, this would be my x, this would be my y. How does y depend on x? Let's say it's the same set of values. I go back to stats. I'm going to go over to calculate. Now I'm running a 2 variable statistic. I could run that, get that data out, but usually what you want to do is create a regression line. And there are different regressions you could run, but I'm just going to run a linear regression. So I'm going to create a regression line to see how well y depends on x. I hit enter. It's saying x list is L1. My y, my dependent variable, is L2. My frequency list is L2. We'll clear that. Store the regression equation. We want to do that. And then calculate. So I'm going to run a regression, my 2 variable statistics. My R value, the closer to 1 or -1, the better the fit. So that's what an R value is correlation coefficient. So it's an OK fit. Then there's my regression line, y equals ax plus b, with a value of a of 1.1 and a value of b of 1.4. So my regression line is y equals 1.1x plus b 1.4. All right, those are my 4 key points. Let's go on to the last point. YO, euro. You only round once, so you always want to use this answer key down here. So in blue, it's the answer key. So if you have some pretty complex calculations, you don't want to write stuff down and make transpositional errors, and you don't round continuously, you only round once. So you only round at the very end of your computation. So if you have 8 divided by 9 and you hit enter, you get a long decimal with a lot of significant digits. You don't write that down, and you don't take that and just round it. You take the answer. So now let's say I want that answer and I want to divide that by 7. So I take my answer and I divide it by 7 and I get that. I keep that value stored there. Now let's say I want to take that value and add, and it's going to pick up my answer automatically, my previous answer, and I want to add 8 divided by 9, close parentheses. And then now that I'm done all my calculations without doing any rounding, now I round. And I want to look at my significant digits, but if I wanted to round to the hundredths place, it would be 1.02 because this thing is above the 0.5, right? So last bit of advice is euro, you only round once, and that's right at the end. You use your answer key right here to store values. Well, I hope this was helpful to get started using a graphic calculator or to review some of the key ideas and the key mistakes that I see students make using a graphing calculator. The problem is when you're using a calculator, you might get 95% of the problem right, but you did one little order of operations wrong, everything's wrong. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Thank you.